Hello and welcome to another episode of Botanical Rebellion. I am your host, Misty Blue, and today we are talking about relationships. Anytime I meet someone who has been in a relationship forever, I always have to ask, what is the secret sauce? And it's funny because I had two patients this past week who were in marriages for 50 plus years. The first one was this cute little man, and he was just obsessed with his wife, and it was so adorable. So I asked him, what is the secret to this long-lasting relationship? I have to know. And his response was that they never go to bed mad. And I absolutely love that, even though it is super cliche, and you've heard that before, but it's really important because, yes, sometimes you need to sleep on it, but you can still go to bed with the conflict or the issue, but not go to bed mad. You can still say, hey, you know what? We need to pause. Let's sleep on this and we'll figure this out tomorrow when we've gotten some rest. I love you. That's one way to go. But if you just go to bed mad, then you are just going to sit there and stew, at least for me. If I go to bed mad, I'm not going to bed. I'm awake, I'm tossing and turning, I'm thinking, I'm upset, I'm not sleeping well. So then the other patient was this sweet little lady, and she had red lipstick on. And I was like, you're going to your MRI with lipstick on, girl? And she was like, yes, my husband's on his way. And it was so cute. And I know that's kind of old school and like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to get ready. I'm in the hospital. Like, no way. But I could see where she was coming from. And I had to ask her too, what is the secret to this long-lasting marriage? And she said, I still make effort. And that was the core point right there. That all these years later, she still makes effort. She still tries to impress him. You still have to chase your love. You still have to date, put in that effort and the interest and the curiosity. And that is the point. Here's a lesson that is important to learn, but I don't think everybody achieves this one. And it's the fact that we are not the main character in everyone's story. We are only the main character in our own. And I say that because this is where you have to have that self-awareness, not just with yourself, but your awareness within others and emotional intelligence. It is absolutely infuriating to try to explain to someone your feelings and your needs and communicate that with them just for them to turn around and say, well, I blah, 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 or what about my difficult life? Okay, it's not your fucking turn. Like, this is where you have to learn to just listen. All people want is to be heard. People just want to be heard and seen. And when you are having an argument with someone, the intention there is to win the argument, not to resolve it, not to hear the other person. It is an ego trip and to be right. What does that fucking solve in the first place? What does that bring to the table? How does that elevate the situation or the relationship? How does that do anybody any good? This is where reciprocity comes into play, and it's so important. You have to learn how to put your ego aside, tuck that bad boy in, say goodnight for a minute, and actually check in with your partner or whoever you're communicating with, whether it's a friend or family member or coworker. It's important to put that shit aside and actually hear what they have to say. And that is how you fucking solve shit. There doesn't need to be any pissing contest. It isn't about who had a shittier day than the other. Just listen to each other. Let's talk about matching energy. When you try to match someone's energy, it can be toxic if you're playing a game, if you haven't communicated. That is bullshit and it's toxic. I agree. However, if you have communicated and you're not being heard, if you've done all of the things, if you've done your part, if you've done your work, then sometimes matching energy is just self-preservation. Sometimes matching energy is just taking the fucking weight off of your shoulders and putting it down, and then that person, the other person, not picking it up. That ends up just being data. However, I also am a firm believer on the fact that you have to choose every day to make the effort to continue to show up for the people in your lives. And if you stop choosing that, then it's going to fall apart on both ends. Ultimately, I believe the most important thing in this particular situation is communication. You have to communicate. If both parties cannot communicate efficiently, the whole situation is fucked. You can't work with that. You cannot work with a lack of accountability. You cannot work with the victim mentality. These are absolute bare fucking minimum core values, okay? If these do not exist, throw that shit away and start over, because you can't go far without those things. Now, I have a friend who asked me for my bare minimum checklist. I always tell my clients and my friends, when I have a client in my chair and they're going through a breakup or they're having relationship issues, I always suggest to have that list. Now, it's okay to start that list if you're already in a relationship. It's not a bad idea, because you can check in and say, hey, these are some important core values that are missing. Is there a way we can work on this? Or maybe you'll find out that your partner isn't for you. Sorry. So recently my friend said, hey, can I see your list? And I didn't really want to share it at first, because honestly, it's unique to who you are. It's unique to your own needs. I can't make a bare minimum checklist for you, because it has to be unique to yourself. This will be unique to your needs, what you want in a partner, and I can't make a list for everybody. But I will go ahead and share it because, hey, maybe people need an idea of what should we be looking for. So sure, I can get on board with that. These are in no particular order. They just get added when I come up with it or think about it. Loyalty sees us as equals. Commitment, security and safety, communication skills, self-aware, listens intentionally, curious and interested in me, emotionally invested and emotionally intelligent, not addicted to social media, empathetic, still kind during conflict, makes time for me, consistent, does not raise voice at me, open to feedback, personal and mutual growth, emotional support, effort, not controlling, accountability, personal and mutual goals, intimacy, romance, consideration, transparency, doesn't hang out in bars, quality friends, discipline, open, honest, and respectful communication. Oh, there's the communication again. So this is the bare minimum, okay? Because I feel like we have to reassess the situation, any situation in life, regularly, right? I feel like the conclusion has been that the bar has been low. And I think the reason for that is we just don't have the mental health awareness and help and the resources that we need. People are not getting the tools they need. That's just not taught in school. We're learning about fucked up math equations that don't matter, that we'll never use in life, instead of how to balance our bank account. You know what I mean? So some of us just don't have the tools, and maybe our parents didn't teach us that. It's not our fault, but you know what is our fault is that we're adults now. So now it is our fucking fault. Now we have to do what we can to catch up. Okay, I'm sorry if you had a disadvantage. I did too. But that's why we have resources out there like therapy. And again, we don't always have access to that. So there's also podcasts, there's books, there's ways to learn and implement that so that you can elevate your life, so that you can heal and have healthier relationships. Make sure you're doing the work, because I promise you, your partner will outgrow you if you don't. Now, I can't think of who the original person is who came up with these, because I feel like sometimes on social media, when people say something, it gets recycled over and over and over and over and over from different platforms, or people just steal shit. And so unfortunately, I can't remember I don't know who to credit this, because it's been kind of echo chambered over and over. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to echo chamber that in case somebody hasn't heard it. But one thing I heard was to ask yourself, does this person bring value into my life? Now, this could be for a friend, it can be for a relationship or any situation, but you want to ask yourself, do they bring value to my life? Because if they're just adding chaos to it, then what's the fucking point? You can add your own value to your life. You can control the peace in your life. So if someone's coming in and disrupting that peace, then get them the fuck out. They don't belong there. You want people who have something to offer, whether it is peace or safety or adventure or whatever it is that you're looking for. All of those check marks checked off, maybe? This is another one I've heard before, and it's, if someone were to tell you that you are just like your partner, would it be a compliment or an insult? This is another one I've been seeing lately. I was trying to get someone actually to be a guest on my podcast because I was like, oh my God, that's so powerful. But then I saw it was just like a viral meme just going around, and it was on my Facebook from like other platforms. So I was like, oh, this is like the topic of the week, I guess. But it's your partner is going to be there when your parents pass away, or when shit hits the fan in your life, when terrible things happen, when tragedy happens. Is that partner going to be by your side? Are they going to be in the hospital with you while you're going through this horrific time? Are they going to be taking shit off of your plate? Will they be there for you emotionally? These are really fucking important things to consider, because I think that we look at a partner when we're young and we're like, oh my God, they're hot, or they listen to what I listen to. Yay. And who gives a fuck? Like, that used to be one of my top things. What do they listen to? And who gives a fuck? Because none of that had any fucking quality or characteristics that actually mattered. Like, think about it. If you're only thinking about what someone looks like or what they listen to, that's not getting you anywhere. That doesn't equate to emotional stability. Okay, like, we have to look deeper than that. It's kind of like when you see that really beautiful chick who's with kind of like a dorky guy or someone you wouldn't think could land her, and you're like, what has he got? You know what he has? He probably has emotional stability, guys. He probably has emotional awareness, and he is not playing fucking games. And that's also probably why they're going to be living a long, healthy, lasting life together. If you want to get a relationship to work, you have to let go of the previous ones. And I'm talking about you too. I'm talking about you over there in the corner, the one who has all the trauma. I'm saying that because that's something I've struggled with. There's this old quote, and I'm aging myself, but I had this like phase in my early 20s, and it was this company called Crime Think. I want to say it was THINC instead of a K. And I remember there was a poster, and it had the shadow of the Twin Towers over the rest of the city. And the quote said, "Don't let the past hold the future hostage." And it is a quote that has stuck with me since then. It's always been in the back of my mind. Am I letting my past hold my future hostage? It's a good question to ask, because yeah, there's been many times I've brought that baggage into relationships. And, when you get triggered and you're thinking like, these patterns seem similar to the patterns before. I'm a pattern person, if you haven't picked up on that. I think it's important to have that self-awareness and to work on those things and healing so that it doesn't spill over into your relationship, because it is not fair to punish the person you're with because of what your ex did. And believe me, I've done that, and it's not fun. And it's really important to recognize that so that you can give the person you're with the best shot. They are not your ex. Let them be them, and, it's just time to burn that fucking bridge and let it be done. Let that shit go, and remember that it doesn't deserve to take up real estate in your brain or in your heart. There is something I think about often, and it is the fact that one day your loved ones are going to be gone, and you're going to think about how you wish you put your fucking phone down. I think it's something to consider in relationships, especially, is that being on your phone and just scrolling and checked out, it's such a disconnection. And yet you don't have that same courtesy as you do when you're with people who are not in your relationship, say a coworker or some friends. Suddenly the phone is gone and put away all day or all night or during your adventure. And yet when you're on a date with your partner, you just can't stop scrolling. So you have to be mindful of what it is you're putting into the relationship. Are you giving your partner time and attention? That's something you have to consider. Another interesting thought is that the thought doesn't count. I feel like people want credit for the thought. But the thought is lazy, and it doesn't really mean anything when that's all it is thoughts and no actions. It's kind of like that saying, like, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Okay, that's great, but like, what is that really doing? I think perhaps if you have lots of thoughts and you're not taking any actions, then maybe that's a good moment for some reflection. Triggers in relationships can be tricky, because if someone triggers you, they don't necessarily need to go out of their way and change their life for you. Like, that's what therapy's for. We need to figure out how to manage those triggers. And triggers are also kind of there to help you heal. It's there to show you like a reflection of what is troubling you and what is a scar or what is painful or what is hurting you, so that you can try to find that spot and heal it. That's not to say that people are allowed to just poke and prod and hurt you. We want respect here, okay, first and foremost. But you're not meant to stay in a cycle of triggering and being hurt. We're meant to find that and heal it. Like I said, we have to break that pattern. We have to find that trigger and we have to heal it. And so sometimes that's the beauty of a relationship, is that your partner triggers you and shows you what you are meant to fix. And if you have a good relationship or a healthy partner, then they'll help you heal and you can heal together, or you'll be in a safe place to heal on your own. I think it is also important to consider and remember that you can't take words back. There are some things that people have said to me that are scars and that will forever be there. If you're having an argument and you're heated and you're upset and you say words and they come out of your mouth, they don't go back in. You can apologize and give all the love in the world after, but it doesn't take away those words that were said. So just be really careful of what you say. And if you have a problem with saying things that you can't take back or that maybe you regret, try taking a little pause before you speak. If you are a person who reacts and something is said by somebody else, take a moment to take a deep breath, count to 3 or whatever the fuck you need to do, and take a moment, because we don't want words that can become weapons to escape that we can't take back. That's just going to only damage more. Growth requires effort, work, and trying new shit. So when someone says, this is just who I am, that person has absolutely no desire to grow. They are fine and comfortable being who they are. And I think this is interesting because I've heard this concept before where if somebody says, I'm not going anywhere, you'll have to be the one to leave me. And they say stuff like that, like, oh, this is who I am. What that means is I'm going to continue to do the shit that I'm doing, and I don't give a fuck what you say, and I'm not going to change it. And that's what they mean by you're going to have to be the one to leave. They're just going to keep doing that. Nothing's going to change, and it's going to be correct. It's going to be right. You're going to one day get sick of the shit and go, okay, yeah, they weren't lying, and that's okay. Some people are just totally content and happy with who they are, and that's absolutely fine. Good for them. But if sometimes what that means is that you're not in alignment. If someone doesn't want to hear you and say, you know what, I love you so much, I fucking need you in my life that I'm going to consider working on these characteristics or behaviors that I have so that this can be healthier and so that you feel heard and seen. It's a respect thing. As a reflection, a good question to ask yourself is, what are your shortcomings in a relationship? This is important because, again, we need to have those assessments sometimes. We need to reassess. It's good to have these check-ins to where we can ask these kind of questions. So for me, what are my shortcomings in a relationship? Well, let's see. I know that sometimes I can shut down. I have a tendency to go inward and, go back to feeling like the kid or the young woman or the single mom of just having to survive on my own and not having anybody to really lean on, and just having to do everything myself because I know that I can lean on myself. And that's something that I have to kind of work on and heal. And I do work on that in therapy, and I do try to ask for help, and I do my part. And that's something where sometimes I have to ask, like, am I still working on this? Have I started slacking on this? What else can I do to be better about not shutting down or learn how to lean on someone? And so it's good to reassess these shortcomings that we have so that we can be better and so we can elevate, whether it's in our relationships or life in general. A lot of times these are qualities and characteristics that can spill over into other relationships, such as friendships or family. We have to ask ourselves, what work are we doing on ourselves? Because at the end of the day, we can't make anyone change themselves. We can't make anyone do something different or stop doing that. We can ask, we can spill our hearts out, but that doesn't necessarily control the outcome. But what we can control is what is our part. And sometimes our part is to maybe love yourself more and decide, is there something that I am doing, whether it be that I'm allowing this behavior or I'm choosing partners with these qualities instead of partners with the qualities I seek and deserve. A lot of us deal with conflict differently. Some people want space and others want to solve it right away. And so the issue here is that we need to meet in the middle, because if we don't, then you have the one person who wants space, doesn't feel respected, and their boundaries aren't being respected. And that's understandable. Like, if you need space, respect. I get it. But if you're the type of person who wants that solved right then and there and somebody else needs space, it can feel like abandonment. So everyone needs to be happy here, right? That's where communication is important. And that is where you can say something like, hey, you matter and this is really important to me, but I need some space to think about it and reflect. And I think it would be good for us to take X amount of space and then reconnect and try to solve this because I love you, you matter, but I just need a moment. Okay. And that's where the other person can feel like I can work with that, because sometimes it's just the unknown that can make the other person feel crazy, not knowing. Because, that person's taking space and they just ghosted me for the weekend and turned their location off. That's not gonna make someone who overthinks or likes to solve problems right away have any kind of sense of clarity or direction even, because they're over there thinking, do I need to start planning for, what's next? Or is everything okay even? So that's where communication is important and you have to meet in the middle. So if space needs to be given, make sure there's an agenda and that there's a timeline, because otherwise space can feel infinite and confusing to the other person. So I know we all deal with life differently, but again, communication is just so fucking important. I know I feel like I'm kind of going on a rant, but these are all just random shit that I think about all the time. You can't just be an echo chamber to your friends. If your homie comes to you and is like, hey, I'm going through this shit with my partner, and you're just like, yeah, fuck that person, egging them on because you want to be supportive, that's sweet, but it's actually not doing any good for your friend. I think a real true homie would say, hey, buddy, you're kind of fucking up right now. Wake up a little bit. Instead, they'll just let everything fall apart and watch it while they pat them on the back and tell them, yeah, you're right, bro. Make sure your friends are going to give you honest feedback and that you are sharing the true story, because a lot of times people come in and they present themselves like, I just am so innocent and perfect and they're crazy. Okay, you're not going to own up to any of your shit, really? You are just God's gift to earth, I guess. So it's important to be real, at least, if you want that support from your friends, and get some real feedback. I think insecurity can be a big topic in a lot of relationships, and it's something that can be difficult to navigate because it's a symptom of a bigger underlying issue. Whether that issue is some fucked up words that was said in the past, or the fact that maybe things are so rocky and you're on and off and on and off and on and off. It's really hard to feel secure and not think that there could be another person, or wondering who's in the person's Snapchat or whatever. Yes, those can be really silly, especially when we are adults. But if your partner is asking about stuff like that, they're wanting reassurance, probably for a reason. I don't think people feel threatened by another person when there's stability or a solid foundation. Now, if you break up every month, I don't think your partner's crazy or insecure. I think that there's a problem in the relationship, and that isn't a safe space, and there's not consistency, emotional awareness, or mutual respect, or communication, or accountability. And so, yeah, that person might feel a little insecure about the random girl that always snaps you when it looks like you're out without your girlfriend. I'm just saying. I think there's a little more emotional maturity in a person when they can say, hey, what's going on here? Why are you feeling insecure in this moment? And investigating that. If your partner feels heard, seen, loved, understood, and respected, then most likely they're not going to worry about anybody else. There's going to be a security in that relationship. Then it wouldn't really be a threat because everything's solid. But if you're breaking up every month, it's common sense. Who would feel secure in that relationship? And when it's met with, they're crazy, they're insecure, oh my gosh, I just can't even believe, you're not gonna solve shit. You're gaslighting instead of, let's see what the big picture is here. How can I make my partner feel more secure? Perhaps if I offered a little more consistency and I didn't abandon them every time things were hard, then maybe they wouldn't worry about chicks in Snapchat. It's really kind of simple. When you walk away from a situation, you have to reflect. In order to grow as a person, you have to use these messy mistakes and failures as opportunities to learn. Looking back, I once grieved situations that now make me feel blessed to accept. I have alchemized that grief into a beautiful lesson that helps me to elevate and evolve. And that's always my goal. How can I learn from this so that it never fucking happens again? Lastly, when you set boundaries with a healthy person, they will not react and retaliate. So make sure you surround yourself with people who allow space, show support, give respect, and have accountability and communication skills. Equally as important, stay away from people who live in a victim mentality mindset. Let's not necessarily talk about marriage per se, but just the idea of commitment. This could really apply to anyone. So whatever gender you align with, I'm just kind of speaking in gender norms. I think when I was younger, and I feel that a lot of women can sometimes relate to this, is that you want to earn that wifey label. And so we go above and beyond to cook and clean and act like a wife because we want to be that wife. We want that role so bad. And when you get older or perhaps experience that in your life already, and you kind of learn over time, but at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes looking through that lens is wrong. And instead of trying to be this wife and cook and clean, we have to ask ourselves, like, what are they doing? I mean, maybe if they are paying the bills, okay, you guys kind of have your roles and that makes sense. And sometimes it ends up being that classic stereotypical trad wife role, then that's okay, because sometimes it just works that way. But if you have two people who are busting their asses and working hard, it doesn't make sense for one to be making sandwiches every morning for someone who doesn't even give a shit. What I see often in these local mom groups from anonymous posters are years from now where the kids are several years old and the mother or the wife is just stuck at home and kind of losing their sense of self and not feeling appreciated while their man is out getting lit, coming home late, and not helping out with the kids and not helping out with this and that. And I see it all the time. I see it every day by different anonymous women all the fucking time. And this is where I kind of circle back to, we can't focus on asking what their favorite music is, or because they have a nice truck, or because they're good looking or tall or whatever it could be. We need to start asking the questions of, is this person respecting me? Is this person going to carry me when I can't carry myself? Are they going to take care of me when I'm sick? Are they going to make me a fucking sandwich once in a while? Is there reciprocity? Is there effort? Is there interest? Because a lot of times there's not even interest. Like, some of these people are in relationships with people that don't even fucking like them. You know, how do you go several years and they don't even know the just basic shit that you like? I think on a personal level, that was something that I had done in the past because I felt like I needed to prove my love or earn my love. If I do all of these things, maybe my mommy and daddy will love me. It's the same thing, but now just as an adult. If I do this, this, and this, maybe they'll love me. Maybe they won't leave me. Maybe they won't cheat on me. Maybe blah, blah, fucking blah. And that's just not how it works. If anything, don't fucking make them breakfast until after you get married or decide to commit. Because honestly, like, that's when they should reap the benefits and the bonus of that. Quit fucking doing it because you're trying to get that ring or because you think that it's gonna earn love, because at the end of the day, they should just fucking love you, not for your convenience or what you provide or the breakfast fucking sandwich that you make. They should love you for everything else but that. And also maybe they should be making you a fucking sandwich. How about that? There's the joke about the princess treatment, but I truly feel that, I'm going to piss some people off, but I truly feel that men get princess treatment nowadays. Like, we're the ones who are bringing you food and cooking you dinner and keeping the house clean. Like, you're the fucking princess and we are the butlers, I guess. Princess treatment for women is kind of just like the bare minimum. At the end of the day, it's just really simple shit that people just want to feel loved, respected, seen, heard, and understood. Period. So before you make that boy a sandwich, make sure he's checking those boxes. It is possible to heal while you are in a relationship. Being vulnerable helps to open doors for compassion and communication, and you can still be lovable in the process. Choose your words wisely, even though this can be difficult at times, but it's important to be mindful. Try to say, I'm feeling, instead of you are doing. An example of this is saying, I'm feeling unseen, rather than saying, you ignore me, or I'm feeling anxious when we don't check in, not you make me feel like a burden. Because no one's making you feel a certain way. You are just feeling how you feel. And it's okay to express that and communicate it. But when you put blame to it, it can be really challenging to be heard. This is going to build connection versus defensiveness, and it's going to allow your partner the opportunity to show up without feeling blame. If you want to know how to be a safe place for your partner through their growth or healing, I'll go over that with you. Safety is built in small, consistent ways. Like instead of saying, are you okay? It can be, how can I show up for you today? There's that concept of not doing 50-50, but each partner does 100%. And some days we might only be able to show up 80% or fucking only 30%, and that's okay. On days like that, for example, say you're sick or you just had a shit hell of a day, your partner might need to step up and make up for that and pick up for the slack. That is what a true partnership is. It's also important to regulate yourself first. You can't create safety if you're reactive or defensive. Learning to ground yourself and understand what your trigger is and breathe and pause and ask, what's actually happening here? What is this feeling? What's going on? What happened when I felt this way last? In therapy, I tried EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This therapy uses eye movements to help process the memory and reduce its emotional impact. The eye movements are actually kind of like going from each side of the brain. And on one side of the brain, you have that analytical side, and the other is more of the emotional side. You're accessing both. So doing this process, I was able to pinpoint my trigger. And my core belief is that I do not matter. 9 times out of 10, when I'm being triggered, it's because I'm feeling like I was when I was just a young child. And my dad was an alcoholic. He would have these outbursts, and sometimes he'd hit himself in the head and scream. And being 6'4", it was really scary. And I would think to myself, like, I don't matter. If my parents loved me so much, if my dad loved me so much, why would he do this and scare me? So I learned this over time, connecting that core belief and that core memory to different relationships throughout my life and different circumstances. The core wound was that I don't matter. When you learn this, you're able to go back and kind of reparent yourself and correct that and say, okay, you know what's happening here? I actually do fucking matter. This is just someone who is emotionally unstable and they are spilling their trauma onto me. Ain't nobody got time for that. So when you can learn that and correct it and take that breath and work through that trigger, then you can actually have this really powerful step forward of letting go of that core belief and correcting it. Of course, everyone's core belief is going to be a little bit different. And that's what I mean by regulating your nervous system. It is important for you to have control over regulating yourself. And that's sometimes where taking space, taking a moment, or maybe going to another room can really come in handy, because you have to ground yourself. You're not going to get anywhere if you're both heated and flying off the walls. When I'm talking about emotional regulation, I'm talking in gender norms, the stereotypical, cis male, female. So this might not apply exactly, but typically the female cries and the male has the anger outbursts. And so when the woman's crying, oh my God, you're so emotional. But what about the man? What about the dude here? Because they can be emotional too when they're having that fucking anger outburst. Like, everybody needs to control their fucking emotions and regulate their emotions at the end of the day. So make sure you're being mindful and aware of what exactly this looks like. We're not just talking about tears, okay? We're talking about the anger outbursts too. So now that you have regulated your emotions, this is where we want to validate the experience without dismissing or debating. This is the biggest motherfucking problem. Dismissing and debating. What is to fucking debate here? There's nothing to debate. Someone is telling you how they feel. You're not fucking listening. You're debating. You're arguing with them. The fuck? Let them be heard. You don't have to agree with how they feel. You don't have to fight them and change their mind. They just want to fucking be heard. There's not an argument here. So that wasn't my intention, but I see how it landed that way. That's a great example of letting someone feel heard and seen and not dismissing them. You don't need to agree to validate. The goal is not to be right. It is to stay connected. I think normalizing emotional check-ins is also very important. Here's some prompts. Here's an example of an emotional check-in. Is there something you wished I'd noticed more? Or what's something I do that makes you feel safe? Is there a memory from the past that you wish I understood better? These create emotional connections through curiosity and not interrogation. This is how you can get to know your partner more and learn and understand them a little more. It's also really impressive. If someone came up to me and said something like that, I'd be like, the fuck? You want to learn more about me? What, really? Damn, that would make me feel like I matter. Celebrate small progress. This is so fucking important because I can't stand complacency. It's such a buzzkill. It's like the opposite of romance. Celebrating small progress, that's really important. An example of this is, I know this conversation was really hard for you, so thank you for trusting me with it. That is such a win, and that's going to make someone feel like they're doing the right things and that they're being seen and appreciated. And that's going to also make them want to continue that. Or saying something like, I see how much you're trying and I'm not taking it for granted. I appreciate you. That is huge. Again, this is making someone feel seen and not judged. Now, are people going to maybe fuck up and slip backwards and have a moment where they didn't regulate their emotions, or maybe they did the thing that you've been asking them not to do? Probably. It's going to take a lot of consistency and time and habits to be broken for this to really take place. So that's where you kind of need those I see you and celebrating those little wins and just making sure people feel like they are being seen. Love is not a reward for being healed. It is a container that makes healing possible. When both people are committed to self-awareness, repair, and emotional generosity, it becomes love that transforms, not just comforts. Love isn't about proving that you are worthy. It's about knowing you are and choosing someone who shows up for that truth every single fucking day. Healing in a relationship isn't about being perfect or never getting triggered. It's about awareness, emotional intelligence, the daily decision to be intentional and not reactive, to make space for someone else's story without losing your own. And honestly, matching energy, sometimes that's not petty. It's just data. It's taking inventory of what's being given and asking, is this really what I want to receive? Reciprocity is not entitlement. It's emotional maturity. You don't need to earn love by overgiving, over-explaining, or shrinking. You don't need to be perfect for your partner. You just need to be honest with yourself first, because the right kind of love, it won't ask you to abandon yourself to keep the peace. It will be peace. So make your checklist, hold your core values, look for partners who bring stability, accountability, and joy, not just shared playlists or matching aesthetics. You are not behind if you're still figuring it out. And you're not broken because you feel deeply. And you're not stuck. This chapter is just making you stronger and smarter for the next move. So make the breakfast if you want, but don't serve it to someone who doesn't know the recipe for respect. You are the love that you've been waiting for. And the rest, that is just a bonus.